The Chicago Bulls faced the Charlotte Hornets tonight in a revenge game, a game in which the Bulls gave up a big lead that has been stereotypical of them in the month of January, which we're also going to talk about the amount of double-digit leads the Bulls gave up in the month of January. We're going to preview the game against the Hornets, talk about that. We're also going to talk about how the Bulls could benefit from the Portland Trailblazers seeking to add talent to this team at the trade deadline. We're going to talk about that and what that could mean for the 2023 first-round pick they owe us. We'll get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans, welcome to Chicago Bulls Central. I'm the host here, Haize. You can follow me right off the top at CEO Haize on every social media platform. But we're going to start off our previewing the game tonight as the Bulls face the Charlotte Hornets, and both teams are coming off losses in this game. The Bulls should be looking to get some type of revenge against this team, a team that, that was really indicative of their month of January, gave up a big lead, didn't play well down the stretch of that game, even though they played some pretty good defense on LaMelo Ball and the Charlotte Hornets' biggest scorers in that game. Scary Terry came in and really killed us in the back end of that game. Mason Plumlee played great defense. And that's really where the Bulls need to focus at, in my opinion, in this game, is the effort on the defensive end of the ball. When the Bulls give that consistent effort from all four quarters on the defensive side of the ball, we have success. We get wins. And so the defense of this team plays, being locked in, mitigating turnovers, trying to keep those turnovers to low while moving the ball around. Player movement, ball movement. That is the key to the Bulls, and that's been the key to this Bulls team finding success dating all the way back to last season. They have to continue to try to do those things if they want to fare better against a team that defeated them. They already ended the month of January with a loss. And we'll talk about the month of January and why it was so bad for the Chicago Bulls. But this game, the Bulls have to force the Charlotte Hornets to shoot the ball inefficiently. They cannot give up big nights from behind the three-point line. And also, Vooch has to have a better performance against Mason Plumlee than what he did in that last game. In the last game against the Charlotte Hornets, Nikola Vucevic only had 12 points, 9 rebounds on 5 of 16 shooting. We need a better output from Nikola Vucevic, and maybe with the way that Andre Drummond did play in albeit his only 4 minutes in our last game against the Clippers, maybe we can see him, and then we can keep some of that pressure on with the rebounds that both these guys are able to give. We need Vooch to be a better player tonight against the Charlotte Hornets than what he was last game. Now we know Vooch has put together a great month of January, and he's been one of the most, if not the most consistent Chicago Bull this season, even better than DeMar DeRozan. But with that being said, this team has to lock in. We have to also have a nice performance from Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. Let's keep those turnovers down. When the Bulls can keep the turnovers down, and even if they can keep it to less than double-digit turnovers, they win 90% of the games that they don't have double-digit turnovers in. We need the Bulls to be able to control and keep hold of the basketball. Those harebrained mistakes, the inability to just do inbound plays, all that. The Bulls, we all know, they suffer from not being able in crunch time to execute. You know how they can avoid crunch time? Playing a full 4 quarters of defense, shooting the ball better, having bigger performances from your big three, and as well as the role players chipping up in major ways. So yes, the Chicago Bulls team needs to be able to lock in. They need to be able to do that. This is not a game you need to take lightly. And as we said, the month of February, every single loss hurts the Bulls even more than what it has before. If the Bulls really want to try to make a move, and I don't even know if they do anymore. Like, in doubting this team's heart, it leaves a lot to be desired. But rebounding, the team has to rebound the ball well, keep the turnovers low, and play through Nikola Vucevic. That means even if Vooch is not having a good scoring night, he still needs to touch the ball on most offensive possessions because he's going to make the right pass and play 9 times out of 10 to get the ball to the correct guy. And also, our role players need to hit their open shots. That's what we need from this team. As far as right now with the injury report, nobody's listed on the injury report. Seems like Derrick Jones Jr. is going to be good to go. We need that and the energy from him, especially while Javonte's out. But Billy Donovan has to continue to ride the hot hand. We need a better coaching effort from Billy Donovan in this game. We need it all, right? We need it all. We need to see stop the reluctance of going to Andre Drummond. Yes, he's not a perfect player. Yes, he may put you in foul trouble sometimes, and that's when you sit him. But give him a chance to work himself out of it. We need that size. And one thing that has been evident with the way that Andre Drummond can rebound the ball coming off the bench, it provides the Bulls more second chance points chances. It provides them just more opportunities, even getting out on the fast break when he rebounds the ball well defensively. We need to see that. I get it. Small ball is the new modern NBA, and I get that. But we need to be able to see we have a player that if you give him 12 to 15 minutes can get you 8 to 10 rebounds. We need that in these games. Where are we missing extra possessions from the Chicago Bulls? We need that. But also, we have to rebound as a team. This whole thing that we do where most of our rebounds come from like 3 players and then some players have a 2-3 there, here and there. We need a concerned rebounding effort from this team overall in this game. And if we can get that, it can be a much better result for the Chicago Bulls. They have to also play great defense against LaMelo Ball, which Caruso and Ayo did a pretty damn good job guarding LaMelo Ball in 3 quarters of that last game. The 4th quarter, he found ways to get to the rim. He found ways to get to the free throw line. We need to try to mitigate that, as well as Scary Terry. Terry Rozier cannot be the player who kills you. Zach LaVine has to own that matchup a little bit better than what he did last time. And last time we played the Charlotte Hornets, I said this: I did not want to see Patrick Williams get outplayed by PJ Washington. Patrick Williams actually did outplay PJ Washington in the last game. We just didn't have the support that we needed from everyone else on the court. So if the Bulls can win those matchups, if they can play the defensive side of the ball really well and consistently, the Bulls can get a win tonight against Charlotte Hornets, not necessarily picking them to, just with how the Chicago Bulls season is gone. But we know they have the capability and the ability to. It's just if they're going to bring it home. Now, with that being said, the month of January ended on a loss with the Chicago Bulls, and a completely frustrating loss. And what's more concerning is that 6 out of the Chicago Bulls' 7 losses in the month of January came by giving up double-digit leads. We went 7-7 in the month of January because of that. And when you look at the 6 games, right? So if you look at the Bulls going 500, 7-7 over the month of January, and 6 of those losses coming by giving up double-digit leads, just imagine if the Bulls could have even held on to the leads in half those games, right? Don't expect anyone to be 100%. But let's say that in 50% of those games, which is 3 games, they would have been able to hold on to that lead. We're talking about the Chicago Bulls coming out of the month of January 10-3, and then also being 1 game below 500. That's what we're talking about if the Bulls just hold on to leads. And that's what's so frustrating about this team. It's not that they haven't shown the ability to be able to play with these better teams. It's just that they don't have the heart down the stretch. And when other teams go on runs, which is bound to happen with this team, especially when they aren't playing that consistent brand of defense, when you give up those major leads and you don't have the energy to get back, you don't have the heart, you don't have the determination, you don't execute, you default back to ISO ball. When you do those things, it's tough. And that's what this team needs to look at. If I'm the coach of the Chicago Bulls, which I'm not, but if I'm Billy Donovan, I'm looking at this team and I'm saying, listen to this. No, like, look at this. If you 3 or 4 out of these games, God forbid if they were able to get 4 of those, right? If the Bulls were able to get 4 of those wins, and that adds to you're adding 4 more wins to already 7 wins, and you're going 11-3. It's a completely different outlook on the season for the Chicago Bulls. Completely different. This team needs to find a way to hold on to leads. It's great that you're able to get the leads. You're able to get there by the way that you execute. Stop going away from what is working. That's on head coach Billy Donovan. The fact of the matter that Vooch, who was cooking the whole last game against the Clippers, touched the ball 1 time on the offensive end of the ball with the last 4 minutes in the 4th quarter is disgusting, right? The fact that our best 3-point shooter by percentage, Patrick Williams, wasn't out there when we needed a 3-point shot is bad coaching, right? The fact that you didn't call a timeout when you saw your team struggling to inbound the ball and you did nothing as a head coach to help is bad coaching. And I'm not putting everything on coaching, but coaching definitely plays a big part. And I know some fans really underestimate how important good coaching is to a team being successful. I was like, I haven't had my lights on, none. Like, y'all ain't even tell me I didn't have the lights on. But we need a head coach that is going to step up, use timeouts correctly, use challenges correctly, like all those things. Put the players in better situations, ride the hot hand. There's nothing worse in the world than when you see a player that is giving effort and cooking, right? It'd be different if we were going to Vooch and it wasn't working. Okay, then you move on from a player. But when you're going to a player and that player's having success, shooting the ball efficiently, and you just don't go to them in the second half of games, especially in the 4th quarter of crunch time when you're trying to get a lead and you're going on a run, that poses a problem. Understanding your matchups, how to force mismatches rather than play into mismatches. These are things that we need to see from Billy Donovan, and those are things that have hurt us in the month of January. And again, I'm not blaming everything on Billy Donovan. Because the players have their part in this as well. The players have not stepped up in a way that is meaningful and needed for this team in crunch time as well. Zach LaVine, the bad basketball IQ was on display in so many games in the fourth quarter in the month of January, even in games in which he was probably the reason in a couple of those games the Bulls even had a chance to win. But the mistakes in the fourth quarter, DeMar's foul trouble, DeMar's turnovers mainly just in the last game, and DeMar's inability to understand when to make the correct pass. It shouldn't always have to be you, right? And that's what we talk about, the sense of sacrifice in sports. You have to be able to sacrifice and willing to sacrifice for the people next to you, for the people that are in battle with you. And when you don't sacrifice for them, when you don't try to set them up and put them in positions, they lose faith in you, right? So as much as I sit here and talk about the players that just sometimes stand back and watch DeMar isolate and don't move without the ball. Well, hell, if I have a 90% chance that I'm not going to get the ball, even if I do make the right cut to the basket, because DeMar's just focused on going ISO, Zach LaVine's chucking up bad 3-point shots. When those things happen, the muscle memory, the faith gets destroyed in a lot of ways. And so, again, that's not excuses for anybody. Everybody on this roster has their part in why this team is playing bad. Everyone does. But you have to be willing to sacrifice and play together. And the thing that we're seeing with this Bulls team and that other teams are betting on is that when we punch this team in the mouth, they're not going to play as a team anymore. They're about to go real individual basketball and try to save and play hero ball. That's what other teams are betting on. So teams know if they can just stay in the game and, God forbid, go on a run and take the lead in the fourth quarter, at that point, they can relax because they then know, okay, now we just got to focus in on stopping DeMar and Zach. Because all the passing, all that ball movement that we had, all the going down to Vooch, all the catching Patrick Williams on cuts and big dunks, all that is going to go away if we punch the Chicago Bulls team in the mouth and force them to have to play, catch up on a lead or stop our run. And that is something other teams that we're seeing the other teams bet on. We're seeing coaches also play towards that. This team, when the going gets tough, they don't play as a team. And as long as that's going to be the style of the Chicago Bulls, and again, that's on the players, that's also partially on the coaching staff. But as long as that is the energy around the Chicago Bulls team, they're going to keep finding it being tough goals of them having success against these teams that can go on these scoring runs against them. So we need to see that from this team. You got to empower the people around you. Sink or swim as a team, but do it as a team, right? And when you don't do that, when you want to be the hero, when you want to be the guy that, I'm about to do 15 pump fakes, 25 dribbles, and it not be successful, when teams can bet on you doing that when the going gets tough, it makes that your team that much easier to defend. When teams can bet on Zach LaVine, he's not going to make the right pass. We ain't even got to really set up our defense because he's going to come down the court, and with 18 seconds left on the shot clock, he's going to jack up a three from 3 feet behind the 3-point line. When teams can bet on that, when it's that common, it's going to make it a difficult goal to do anything positive, and especially against a team that's making a run. So we need to see this team. The month of January sucked for the team. But when you look at the amount of losses that they had after giving up double-digit leads, if they can fix that, if they can find a way to play with better heart, be a much better output for the Chicago Bulls, and let's see what they can do in there. Now, also, I'd be remiss if I did not mention that the NBA did come out and say that DeMar DeRozan was right. He did get fouled in that game when he did that spin move, and he should have been awarded 2 free throws. And why does that change things for the Chicago Bulls? Because at that point then, the Chicago Bulls could have tied that game and did so at the free throw line. And DeMar's going to get, he would bet he's going to get at least one out of those 2 free throws, but probably both of them. But this is the thing, and I keep going to this. The last 2-minute report to me is the biggest form of, I don't know, I'm not using the word exactly correct, of gaslighting of any professional sports because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. You come out with these reports, you say your refs got it wrong, but then you aren't doing anything to correct it. And, it's funny how much more the NBA took notice and actually spoke out on it when it was LeBron James. The NBA needs to get ahead of this. And yes, it's hard to implement during season, so I don't expect anything here. But with working with a new CBA, and that new CBA is probably all already written, this organization, whatever, the NBA needs to figure out a way to hold refs better accountable. And I know if you suspend refs, you have to bring up other refs, and there aren't a lot of refs in the NBA. They work in their teams and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's this. You can't keep allowing your officiating to dictate as many games in the NBA as it has. And it's not just the Chicago Bulls. Like I said, the officiating over the course of this season has been atrocious. in so many different ways. You got refs giving out texts to players for saying things as they walk away. Like the refs, I get it that they have to try to keep control of the game, but some of the things that we're seeing with this is just, it's egregious, it's terrible, and the NBA has to do something about this, and let's see if they do. Now, before we go in today, I want to talk about an interesting concept, right? And this, let me say this before anyone gets to type, and I want to be clear here, it's a very small possibility of this happening, but the Portland Trailblazers are a team that are right now 2 games out of being the 6th seed and also 2 games out of being out of the play-in or towards the bottom of the Western Conference. They really sit at that place. And it seems like the Portland Trailblazers have been completely, like they don't want to give up Dame Lillard. They do want to try to build a team around him. When you look at them bringing in Jeremy Grant, things like this. And if this team does decide, one of the things that's hurting the Portland Trailblazers from being a team that can be buyers at the trade deadline is the 2023 pick that's unprotected for the Chicago Bulls. And you may ask, hey, Haize, why is that hurting them? It's 1 pick with lottery protections. And the reason why is because the Bulls have, if they don't get it this year, it goes to next year. Then it goes to the year after that. It's really, the Portland Trailblazers cannot trade because of pick protection any of their first-round picks for the next basically 3 years. And then you could only trade up until 2029. That's the furthest picks that you can trade out. So because of that, it's really hurt the amount of first-round picks that the Trailblazers could present for other teams if they want to try to be buyers and bring in more talent to this team. But if this, and this is, I can't take full credit for this one. I think Kevin O'Connor is the one that originally presented this, and I thought it was a really interesting concept. One of the things that the Portland Trailblazers could do is they can remove the protections from their 2023 pick, and by doing that, it means that the 2025, the 2027, the 2029 picks all become available for them to move in trade deadlines because of the protections and the fact that the Chicago Bulls pick has until 2028 to convey. They can't trade any one of those first-round picks without heavy provisions and protections being written in that. They can't trade them outright. It would have to be, well, if the Bulls don't get it. It changes the language of it. But it would open up the 2025, 2027, and 2029 picks. It also opens up them to be able to swap picks in 2024, 2026, and 2028. Basically, what that would do if the Portland Trailblazers were to have a deal in place to which the team wants 2 first-round picks, and the Portland Trailblazers decide, okay, we're gonna remove the protections from the Chicago Bulls pick. We can then move 2 first-round picks. If they do that, right, then they have the picks to move. So a deal would have to be in place. They would have to have a player and have a conversation with the team already that they're going to give up 2 first-round picks. But there is a chance, a slight one being, that they remove the protections from that pick. Now, when the Portland Trailblazers sent that pick, the GM at that time was really critiqued and criticized for the way that he protected that pick, because it was almost as if he didn't understand how protections work, because it really is hampering them from using or moving their other picks and using those in deals. So there is a chance, albeit a small one, that the Portland Trailblazers may remove that protection from the Chicago Bulls pick, and it actually helps them facilitate another deal. Again, very, very, shot in the dark that may happen, but considering that it is something, and it's something that we have not talked about very often here, or at all, because I didn't even know that was a thing, I wanted to bring that conversation. You guys can let me know what you think about it down below, but that is it for today's episode of Chicago Bulls Central. You can follow the show at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text and or voicemail for our mailbag episodes, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And like I like to end everything on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red, y'all. It's game day. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.